Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the video. My name is Dan. Today we're going to be covering CPAP and several ways that we can integrate an SVN inline. Full disclosure, this video was prompted recently because of some calls that we've had in our department by various crews where we try to hook up our SVN to a CPAP and we find out that this is a CPAP that we've never used before. We have probably 4 different SVN CPAP combos that we might see out there in the field. 2 being some of the older styles, 2 some of the nicer, newer ones. But what prompted this video was this guy right here. This is one that we don't typically stock out of our own supply, but this is something that we get restocked by the ambulance. So we've had a series of calls lately where, myself included, have tried to pull out the CPAP, hook up SVN, and realize it's not really going together the way that we thought it would. So we had to put our heads together, figure out how to figure this thing out in the middle of a call, ultimately resulting in a little delay of treatment, right? So we're trying to save you all the headache, figure out how to do this now so we don't have any problems in the future. So some of the older ones that we might be used to, this one right here is the FlowSafe, the original one. Pretty straightforward. You hook up the mask, you hook up the straps, we plug this bad boy in, and we just start cranking, okay? What we're gonna start this one at, so if you have the blue looking one, what we're gonna do is look at the end, you're gonna find a yellow tag, and this is gonna tell you exactly how much to flow in order to get whatever CPAP you want, right? So in our protocol, we can go up to a max of 10 on a CPAP. So if you look at this thing, in order to get a total of 10 CPAP, we're gonna have to flow this thing at about 25 liters per minute. That'll give you 8.5 to 10, okay? So there's your resource there. One of the other ones that we've seen, it's been a little while since I've seen this one, a little older, but this is the O2, okay? So again, pretty straight, simple. You put the mask on. This has more of the felt kind of straps that we put on, and then we just plug the orange piece right inside. On this one, it's a little harder to see, but it's gonna be right on the neck of the CPAP here, okay? So if we wanna go to a CPAP of 10, we're gonna have to start flowing this at 12 liters per minute, okay? Now, usually this will come with your kind of gauge that we can plug right into here, has a little flexible neck on it. This one does not have the gauge, so it just has this little cap on there. Not a big deal. You don't necessarily need the gauge because we know what CPAP we're getting at what liters per minute. So just titrate to whatever effect you need for your patient. So those are the older ones. We'll come back to those a little bit later, or maybe even in another video on how to hook up all of the SVN and how to MacGyver all those pieces, okay? But what I really want to talk to you right now are the 2 that are most common in our gear. So this one is the FlowSafe 2. This is actually my preferred. This is probably the easiest one if we want to do an SVN combo on it. This is what our department is stocking. But this one right here is the Pulmodyne, the Go-Pap plus Neb Connect. Again, this is the one that's being given to us by our ambulance provider. So this is the one that we're really gonna focus on today, okay? So real quick, I'm gonna talk about the one that we have in our supply. So these are the most comfortable masks, right? So these straps right here have a quick connect on the bottom. Just kind of push them forward, they'll come undone. Slide that over your patient, and then you reach these straps around. You'll hear them click. And then they have the adjustable straps on the top and on the bottom, okay? An additional feature is if we pinch the nose piece right here and kind of move this white foam up and down so it fits well on the patient's forehead. Remember, we need to make sure that this mask is centered in their face and make sure that it's not cocked over to either side. It's not pushing on their nose in a weird way. Personally, I see applying a CPAP as a 2-person process, right? So clip in your CPAP to your mask, hook it up to your O2, start flowing, and then someone's going to sandwich it to the patient's face, okay? Start talking to them, start coaching them, make them feel comfortable with this thing. And then your other partner can come in and start assisting you by putting these straps on, okay? Another thing I would recommend is try not to pull one side at a time because that's when you're gonna start to slide this mask one way or the other. What you wanna do is make sure that we loosen both sides or undo the Velcro, and then we're going to pull both of them together, just like we would on an SCBA mask. That seems to fit a lot more centered on the patient, okay? But this comes as one unit. We notice at the very end of this, since it's a FlowSafe brand, kind of the same style of a sticker. However, this has an integrated SVN built into it. So when we look at the sticker, we have to decide, what are we doing for our patient? Are we just doing a standalone CPAP, or are we going to be doing CPAP with SVN, okay? So if we want CPAP at a total pressure of 10, then I'd have to flow this thing at 13 to 14 liters per minute, okay? So essentially 15. If we want to flow with the SVN, then we're going to have to increase our liters per minute just by a little bit. So again, to achieve 10 on a CPAP pressure with SVN, we're flowing 24 to 25 liters per minute. So hopefully you have a regulator that will do 15 and 25. If it doesn't go past 15, it's probably not the best regulator. Not going to be able to achieve what you want with this thing. But basically, we're going to unscrew this just like we would on an SVN. Undo that. We're going to pour our meds in there, typically 2 albuterol, 1 Atrovent for our standard combi vent. Screw that back on. Make sure that presses in there nice and snug. And then right on the end here, you're going to have a valve. And if you look at the top, you're going to have a red or a green signal there. So if you want SVN, we're going to have to turn this little green valve in line with the SVN. If we don't want SVN, then we're going to have to turn it in line with that red marking. Okay, so either green for SVN, red for no SVN, and then make sure this gets plugged back in. And if it's on the green, now we're going to end up flowing O2. It's going to go through the SVN, back through the CPAP, deliver it to your patient. Again, if we only want CPAP, we flip to the red. It's going to bypass the SVN and just use your CPAP. Okay, so you don't have to disconnect the SVN or anything like that. This one's got that standard gauge for this brand where, again, we're going to increase our liters per minute until we start seeing it bounce towards 10. We don't want to go over 10, okay? Again, titrate to your desired effect on your patient. Once that's all assembled, pretty standard, right into your patient. There we go. So that is the FlowSafe 2. Let's open this one. So this one's the Pulmodyne Go-Pap plus Neb Connect. You'll notice that this piece that's going to connect into our mask is very large in diameter, and we're going to have a valve that's in here. So there's several different pieces, okay? So make sure when you open this, we don't yard sale everything out into the ambo or under the gurney or lose it on the scene, okay? We got to have all the pieces. All right, so we got our mask and we got our head strap. So this one was not pre-connected like the other one, which could become a problem, but shouldn't be an issue. We're just going to snap the pieces in together. There we go. So pretty much the same design as the other mask. We're going to have the quick clips here that snap on the bottom, just a little bit more of a narrow clip. All right, and then we have the adjustable straps, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom of that mask. If we want to adjust this thing, we just have to kind of pinch the 2 plastic pieces together. Be careful not to pinch them too hard because they could snap and then that becomes useless, right? So this is just to add a little bit more comfort to rest up on the forehead here, okay? From here, we're gonna go to our CPAP device, okay? So if we follow down on this tubing, it tells you this needs to flow at 10 liters per minute. And then we're going to adjust the actual CPAP on the device here. So we have the options of going 10, 7, 5, or 5. All you need to do is rotate this white cap on the bottom and you'll see where the green moves, kind of like your PEEP valves, and we can get our desired CPAP. Everything's gonna be based off that 10 liters per minute, so we don't have to adjust our liter flow, okay? So again, this is gonna have a much wider diameter, so instead of going inside the mask, it's gonna go basically fitting on the outside. So squeeze that in nice and snug, plug that into 10, and then if we need to add our SVN, we can add that just up underneath the bottom. There's about a finger-sized hole, it's spring-loaded, so if we don't have SVN, it's gonna spring closed and just let the air flow through the CPAP. If we need SVN, we're gonna have to press up with our device in there to make sure that it sits nice and snug, okay? So I'll pull this out. Again, just like anything else, we'll unscrew it, we'll put our meds in there, typically 2 albuterol, 1 Atrovent, as we said earlier. And then I'm going to press it up. It doesn't screw, it's just kind of a compression fitting there, okay? We would take our O2 tubing, run it into our SVN, and now you're gonna have 2 sources, okay? So what this piece is designed for here, typically we only carry 1 O2 bottle in our gear, right? So if you needed a second source, we'd have to send somebody out to the truck to grab another bottle, or if you're in the ambulance, we have usually 2 or 3 different connection points, okay? However, if we do have an O2 bottle that has this threaded high pressure valve here, we can actually run this SVN and CPAP off of the exact same bottle, okay? So that's where this little Christmas tree connection comes into play. This is the piece that usually gets yard saled and flies somewhere and then it's out of sight, out of mind. So, gotta make sure you are keeping an eye on this bad boy. So I'm gonna screw this in, make sure it's nice and tight. Gotta make sure my bottle is on. And then this is gonna have just a quick 90-degree turn like most other valves that we work with, okay? So off, if it's in line, we're on. And if it's against the inline, then it's off. On, off. So if we read the package that this came with, it'll say here that when this is on and your bottle is on all the way, this will flow about 6 to 8 liters per minute, okay? So as we make this connection here, this is my CPAP. We're gonna hook this up to our main stem of our regulator. We would turn the regulator on to 10 liters per minute. Again, it's on this little orange sticker here. And then when we grab our O2 tubing for our SVN, we're gonna have to attach this to the bottom just like usual. Make sure everything's nice and snug so it's not all popping off. And then this is gonna come into our green Christmas tree here. Again, make sure this valve is in line and on. And now we're gonna be running both sources to our SVN, okay? So 10 liters from the regulator for CPAP. This is going into the Christmas tree and we're just turning it on. And that's gonna deliver enough flow to give you your SVN in line, and then we can adjust based on patient condition up towards 10 for our CPAP pressure, okay? Now keep in mind, especially with our smaller bottles, we're gonna be flowing quite a bit here. It's not gonna last very long. So make sure that we get them switched over to maybe a gurney bottle. Make sure when we're in the back of the ambulance, we get everything swapped over to the main connections, and then we make sure that we have enough O2 left in our bottle so when we get to the hospital, then we can switch back over to a gurney bottle and get them inside the hospital and not run out, okay? If there is any concern, grab another bottle. But this way, we can actually connect to both sources on the regulator. So part of your morning check, might wanna really pay attention to this bad boy and make sure that we have a fitting with that high pressure thread. If not, then go ahead and contact EMS and see if you can get one delivered to your station. So that's pretty much it on the newer ones that we have. Pretty simple once we figure it out. It's just when it's in the middle of a call and things are stressful and you've never seen this before, and a lot of times people don't really see this connection there. So they figure, okay, this can go here, but now how do I add SVN, right? Because this isn't going to fit our typical T-pieces that our SVNs are gonna have sitting on the top of this, right? So it's too big, doesn't fit, and people start to panic. So again, press in there, press the SVN up in there, we can make our adjustment. 10 liters on the nipple end of our regulator. SVN runs to the Christmas tree. It's gonna flow about 6 to 8 liters per minute. Bingo, okay? All right. Now I'm gonna bring in some of our older traditional ones that were, these are always been, they've always been a pain in the butt. Usually people struggle with these. We're trying to MacGyver a bunch of pieces. If duct tape comes out, we're doing it wrong. So I'm just gonna stick with this flow safe one, pretty much the same concept. So remember, anytime we have a difficulty breathing, we have to monitor end tidal CO2. So we can do that one of two ways. Preferably, we can put the nasal cannula end tidal on first, and then we can put the CPAP mask on and build everything else around it. The soft mask will fit around this tubing. It's not going to hinder the seal at all. You know, the tubing's going to sit on the sides of your cheeks, and then it's just going to press right over the top. So not a problem. This is going to be the best thing because then you don't have to worry about some of the additional connections, and things will fit together a lot easier. The alternative way is, let's say you got CPAP on, you've already started treating the patient, you kind of didn't worry about monitoring CO2 initially, you just wanted to get CPAP on right away. Well, now we can add the inline CO2 into the mask as well, at least for the traditional two that we've seen in the past. So that's what I'm going to do here. Remember, if we are going to monitor CO2, it should be the first thing that we are exhaling into, okay? So we want to make sure that this is what goes into the patient's mask first, okay? So I got my patient's mask. We're going to get it strapped on. We're going to take this, press it in. Now the problem is we have a very narrow end here, okay? We could just throw our CPAP right on board, and then we can monitor our CO2 with CPAP. But if we have to add an SVN, we're going to need some more pieces. Okay. Traditionally, when we do an inline SVN, you're looking for the bigger package that usually has some blue pieces to it. Okay, so that's the one I would want to grab. Go ahead and open this up. Actually, so let's say we have our just standard SVN first. Okay, so maybe we start with the SVN, patient's not doing so well, and we need to progress into CPAP. So typically you would have this thing already built, okay? So you got your T-piece, you got your mouthpiece. This is gonna press on top. And then we have our flex tubing and our O2. So here's your standard. Now we wanna add this into our SVN, okay? So what we're gonna have to do, remove the mouthpiece. And this is our first problem, okay? This does not fit into here. So again, this elbow is really the only thing that we have that's gonna help you make this connection, okay? So make sure if you, for some reason, 50-50 shot, you get the wrong end in there, it's not fitting, just flip it around, press in, and that will fit nice and snug. Remember, the cap needs to be on. From here, if we try to put our CPAP on here, again, we're gonna have a problem, that's not gonna work. So we have two options. One, we take that flex tubing off, and we can press that right over the top. Again, make sure it's nice and snug. And then our CPAP just goes on the other end. Well, that would work, except for we forgot our SVN. So now we're gonna have to disconnect that, grab our SVN, and then we can go ahead and put our CPAP onto this. But wait, that doesn't work either. All right, and this is usually what's happening in the middle of a call, right? So we're gonna have to go back to our inline kit here. Remember all these additional blue pieces typically, and we're gonna have to find some more stuff. So there's a couple ways we can do this. Hopefully in this inline kit, we're gonna have a multi-diameter T-piece. So we can remove the original T that we had, because this is gonna be same diameter, external diameter on each side, not working for us. So we're gonna grab the multi-diameter one, press it in there. And now what I could actually do is remove this flex tubing. The wider diameter will fit right onto that elbow, okay? And then this still doesn't make that connection, but all we do is grab one of the flex tubings here. That will fit snugly around the T-piece, and then our CPAP on the other end. And there we go. Okay, so obviously this looks a little ridiculous. There's a lot of pieces, it's bulky, it's cumbersome. There is another way we could do this. Maybe we kind of put one piece on before the other. Maybe we put the flex tubing on first. Well, all I literally did was flip this around, flex tubing on, the T-piece on board here, and then you got your SVN. Because this is a wider diameter, my CPAP will fit directly into there, okay? The problem I have with this, as soon as I let go, now your SVN is gonna be hanging down, and we all know if this thing tilts over, we're gonna spill out and lose our medication. So that's usually when you now have to kind of tie or wrap up your tubing, put it around the patient's shoulder kind of, and that's just a real pain in the butt. So ideally, you want to have your SVN right at your elbow so it has some sturdy pieces, sturdy connections, and this SVN is not going to tilt over, okay? Another thing is if your patient is not tolerating the CPAP, or you have some contraindication, maybe they're becoming altered, they can't maintain their own airway, we can also go ahead and ventilate manually, okay? And we can assist ventilations with our BVM. Okay. Now, again, we're going to have two sources of O2 here. We're going to have our tubing into our SVN, and then we're going to have the tubing for our BVM. Okay. Again, we usually only bring one bottle of O2 into a scene, so we may have to send somebody out to a truck to grab a second one if our ambo's not there with their gurney bottle. So what I would say, if you only have one bottle and you have to give them an SVN and ventilate, I would hook up your SVN to your bottle, flow that at 6 to 8 liters per minute as usual, and then I would just use room air on your BVM. Use the BVM as a mechanism to drive that medication into your patient. Okay, remember, because the SVN is not going to work unless we flow. And then when a second source shows up or we get in the back of an ambo, then we can hook our BVM. So that's the traditional way of doing it. One alternative, let's say for some reason you don't have this multi-diameter T-piece, we have the original one. Again, this will not fit onto that elbow, so we'll need the tubing. Okay, and then we can plug this in on the other end. And then if we wanted to use a BVM or CPAP, remember, these are the same external diameter, so those are not going to fit together. We'll need another tubing. And you can see how absolutely ridiculous this is getting now, right? Huge elephant trunk here, okay? But it is possible. So there's several ways you can hook this up. I think the most important things, CO2 needs to be the first thing that you breathe into when your patient's exhaling, right? So CO2 will plug into your mask. The elbow is key. Remember, narrower diameter on first, and then we can build everything off of that, all right? All right, so that's the older traditional stuff. Give me one moment. I'm gonna grab my patient real quick. All right, so here's our John Doe. We're gonna hook up our SVN. I'm just gonna show you how to hook up the ones that we have now, specifically the one that's been giving us a headache lately, if you have it. As I said earlier, this would typically be a two-person process if you want to do it quickly and smoothly. Remember, if we just take this mask and we start to put it on first, now your patient's going to panic and start freaking out because they don't really have much of an airway. You just have this smaller hole that they're trying to breathe through. And now they're going to get all claustrophobic on this mask too. So ideally, you want to make this connection first. Hook this up to your O2. Remember, this one's going to hook up to that nipple. We're going to turn on the bottle, float at 10 liters per minute. And then hopefully with the patient or a partner's assistance, we can get this on the patient. Do it on my own here. Bear with me. All right, so I have it centered there. I'm gonna bring the bottom straps around. I'm gonna make these quick connections. Again, if this is a real call, I'm gonna have to really coach my patient, try to reassure them. They're gonna be panicking. I can adjust the forehead piece as needed. And then from here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull tight equally on both sides. Remember, I don't wanna pull one side then the other because it tends to pull the mask off to the side. And pull snug. Talk to your patient, see if it's too tight or too loose. And then once I believe that it's on, I'm gonna just check for that seal. Now, if this is flowing, Once I have this on, from here, I can make my adjustment on my CPAP pressure depending on how stable or unstable your patient is. Remember, we can go from 5, 7.5, or 10 just by rotating this white piece. From here, let's say we need to add an SVN in. We would make our combo vent from 2 albuterol, 1 Atrovent. I'm gonna find the plug in the bottom. I'm gonna press up into it. I've got this tubing from the SVN. I'm gonna plug it into this green adapter here. Make sure that this is screwed on to that high pressure thread. I'm gonna turn the valve in line. Again, just keep an eye on the pressures here because we are gonna be flowing quite a bit, okay? So there you have it. Here's our standard setup. Again, these are typically coming from our ambulances. This is not usually the one that we're stocking. So I'm gonna quickly show you if you were to get the one from our supply. Slightly different mask, but I'll go ahead and use the same mask that we already have hooked up. This comes out of the package ready to go. Let's say I want to start with CPAP. I'm going to make sure that my green valve here is turned towards the red. I'm going to plug that in, and then I would hook this up to my O2 source. And if I need to verify, if I want 10 of a CPAP, I'm going to have to flow this thing about 12 to 15 liters per minute. Okay, so I plug that in. And there we go. If I want to add an SVN to this, okay, all I would have to do is unscrew, and sometimes you may have to disconnect to unscrew it because it gets all twisted up. Add my medication in there. I can screw this back in. Make sure we reconnect it on the bottom. And now I'm going to turn this green valve in line with green. Again, if I'm going to be flowing with the SVN inline, I'm going to reference my sticker here at the bottom of the tubing. I'm going to look across. If I want a CPAP pressure of 10 with nebulizer on, then I would need to be flowing this about 24 to 25 liters per minute. So let's see if this regulator, yep, this regulator does go up to 25. So I could use that regulator and bottle even with this setup with SVN. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it's not too much for you. Again, 2 of the most common ones that you're gonna have out there. So just kind of verify on your boxes during your morning checkoff. We're gonna have the FlowSafe 2, has the built-in SVN. Really, you plug it in and either turn the valve on, turn the valve off, okay, and just reference the yellow sticker. Or we're gonna have this Pulmodyne Neb Connect, where we're gonna plug the SVN into the CPAP here. Again, manually adjust 5, 7, 5, or 10. And we're gonna need to make sure that we have this green Christmas tree adapter to the high pressure line. Flow your CPAP at 10 liters per minute. This is automatically, when it's on in line, gonna flow about 6 to 8 liters per minute. So hope you guys enjoyed. Good luck. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks, guys. Bye.